Hey, welcome back to my Permanently Filipino playlist where I basically talk about everything my husband and I are doing as we transition from the United States to become permanent residents in the Philippines. So I can already tell by that introduction that my roller coaster of emotions is already filtering in to this video. And I'm going to start off by front loading some information first and explaining why there's a roller coaster of emotions attached to this, and not so much where like the deep-seated emotions that I might have shared before, but more of confusion, anxiety, trauma, elation, relief. And this is the first time I'm sharing my experience of a very hectic day that was part of our 13G process. So I'm already going to apologize ahead of time when I feel like I'm just muddling through the story, because those emotions are filtering in, if I want them to or not. And I'm going to try to keep them at bay as much as possible, but I can already tell based on how I started this video, I will not do a very good job at it. So I'm going to refer to my notes because I want to make sure I get as much of the information out of what you can expect, and describe the day in a coherent fashion. My fear is I'm not going to be very successful at it. So this is my apology ahead of time. So the hectic day was basically going to the Bureau of Quarantine, and then going to the National Bureau of Investigations. And then we went to the JRC office, which I want to say, very thankful that we have a JRC liaison officer who is helping us through the process. We actually have two that are kind of helping us through. I cannot say enough compliments for the help that they've provided. To not have to do this alone, on our own, has just a huge sigh of relief. So anyway, after going to the JRC office, then we went back to the Bureau of Quarantine. So I'm going to talk about the hectic day in 2 or 3 videos. I'm not sure how many yet, but today's video is going to focus on just the Bureau of Quarantine. And so that means I'm going to attach what we did in the morning and include what we did in the afternoon, and talk about all the other stuff in another video or 2 videos. I'm not sure yet. Anyway, I'm going to refer to my notes so that it helps me keep the roller coaster of emotions that will seem to filter in throughout my story and keep me on track, because I already can feel like my mind is just going and I want to make sure that I stay focused here. Starting off, make sure you are dressed business casual. I will admit that I wore a sleeveless dress. When I go to the National Bureau of Investigations, that's going to matter more than it did at the Bureau of Quarantine. So at the NBI, wear sleeves. My husband wore pants throughout the day, and closed-toe shoes. I wore sandals, and it was never turned away. But I do believe they want you to make sure you have your shoulders covered, so sleeves, and your feet covered, and the men wear pants. Some people might be able to get in with shorts or sleeveless, so good luck. Have backup, something, just in case they decide to turn you away because that is an option for them to turn you away. For the Bureau of Quarantine, you definitely need to establish an account if you have a like our JRC liaison officer did that for us. So they created an account for us, and through that account they scheduled our appointment. Since we live in Lipa, we definitely needed a day to be able to, I mean, we could have traveled by bus to get there and taken care of it, but my husband and I just grabbed a hotel and we were able to get there early. And I believe in showing up early to all of our appointments, just in case they could start our process early, which is super helpful, especially when you know it's going to be a long day. Things that we brought. We brought 3 2x2 passport pictures, my birth certificate, our passports, my ACRI card. We had our Philippines driver's license. We also had our USA driver's license and our marriage certificate. Our JRC officer, our liaison officer, wasn't there when we arrived, so we had to wait outside. But when they did arrive, and they arrived early also, we just happened to be earlier than that, our officer, they helped monitor the entire process. So having that level of comfort of knowing there is somebody who's there to help you throughout the process is a huge relief. Okay, so part 1, you're outside. When you go in, you'll go through like a gate, and you just tell them you have an appointment, and you'll see a tent. You walk through the tent, up some stairs, and then you'll see the building itself that's covered. And there's, from what I understand, a nurse there, and a security officer, and you just tell them you have an appointment. The nurse will hand you, first, you'll get your temperature taken, okay? And then it's recorded. And then you'll receive 3 applications per person. So all 3 applications will need to be filled out. Unfortunately, I don't remember all of the information, but it's the basic information about yourself. And then there's, when you had walked up to that covered area where the security guard is, you had walked underneath a tent. Well, that tent has a table with some glue. That's where you're going to have to glue your passport pictures onto each application after you fill it out. And then once you do that, then I think our liaison officer arrived, and then she turned in our application to the nurse, which would start the processing. But we had to wait outside under that covered area where the security guard is. That wait, when it came to filling out the application, gluing the photos, turning in the application, that might have taken about 15 to 30 minutes. So really the longest period of time for us was just filling out the application, gluing on the passport, then checking through everything, and then we were allowed to go into the lobby in the building. While we're in the lobby in the building, it is slightly air conditioned. But I always bring an extra fan just in case, just because you never know. If you've been in any of these buildings, some of the buildings are very air conditioned, some of them are not. So just kind of being prepared for that. So while we're in the lobby, that also took another 15 to 30 minutes. And when you first walk in, you'll see chairs on the left-hand side, and then on the right-hand side, you'll see like teller windows, and then 2 desk areas, and there's a nurse sitting at each desk. and I think our paperwork went to the two nurses that were sitting in the desk area, and we waited over in, I guess, the seated waiting area. And they have to process you one at a time. So when you go up, when you're called over to the desk, you receive a number when you first walk in, because you might have to wait. And then once your number's called, you go up to the desk, and let's see, you answer some basic medical questions: height, weight, if you've had COVID boosters, and then that's also where you're going to have to pay. So since we're going through the visa agency, it was already paid, so we were taken care of. But if you did have to pay, it cost $47 US. Okay. Let's see. So after payment, then we received 2 pieces of paper, and then we just hung out in the waiting area until they called us back into another room. So a nurse comes out and calls us back into this other room. So I'm just going to prepare you ahead of time. This is where the roller coaster of emotions will filter in now and then. Because you'll understand why once I get to that portion of the story. Anyway, okay, so part 2. We just finished part 2. Now we're into part 3, where we're officially into the medical process. Now this will take you 30 plus minutes, and it is dependent upon your body. Your body, of what you are capable of doing, okay? And I know that I'm being extremely vague because I'm trying to keep those emotions at bay until I actually get to that portion of the story. So, my first piece of paper I used at the first desk. That's where I got my blood pressure was taken, my temperature was taken, and then at a second desk they checked my heart and lungs with a stethoscope. Super easy, no big deal. Then my second piece of paper, I had to go into another room because I needed an x-ray. So in that room, you'll see where the x-ray, the machine is. And then I had to go into like a little bathroom, because then of course you had to just put on the hospital gown and make sure any jewelry that you might be wearing is taken off. Okay? So anyway, in that room, had my chest x-ray done. No big deal. Now I don't have any more pieces of paper. That meant I walked in the room where I had the 2 desks where I got my first medical information written down. I think they had given me a piece of paper because that's all that information that was written down. I'm not sure, I'm trying to remember because this happened back in August and right now it's November. I think I took a piece of paper with me in there, I think, but I had to knock onto the door. That's what I had to do. I'm trying to remember. I'm checking my notes really quickly. So I knocked onto the door. That's the lab room. And it's behind the first desk where you sat. And I went on into that room, and they handed me 2 containers. One container was for my urinalysis. So make sure you're ready, because your second container is for fecal matter. Okay, so this is where my storytelling is going to be all over the place, because we were told when we were sitting in the lobby, before we even were given 2 pieces of paper, we were told that we were going to have to give a urinalysis and fecal analysis. And the entire time my husband and I were in the lobby, we were just stressing out over all of it. we were just we were just stressing out over the whole thing, because it's like, okay, I made sure I drank water, right? And so at least I knew when we were at the hotel, I knew we were going to have at least to give a urine sample. That much I knew, right? But I didn't know about, like, having to leave something for fecal analysis. I didn't know about that until we were sitting in the waiting room there, and I'm looking at my husband and he's looking at me like, I didn't read that anywhere. I didn't read that anywhere. I don't think I read that anywhere. And if I did, I might have blocked it out. So anyway, as you can see, I'm getting so worried because we were already stressing out about the whole process. So when I'm given those 2 containers and I'm looking at my husband thinking, but I don't have to go. I mean, I have to pee because I knew about that. But the other part, what if I don't have to go? What am I going to do? So I said something to the person who gave me the 2 containers, and I said, so what if I can't give you something for fecal analysis? What do I do? Oh, well, just come back. Just give me something at least by 2 o'clock today. It's 10 o'clock in the morning. So you're telling me I have to poop on demand? I have to poop on demand. I don't want to have to come back. I don't want to have to come back. I don't want to have to deal with this. We have a huge day already planned. And I don't want to have to do this. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. Okay, so I'm just telling you ahead of time. When you know you have to go to the Bureau of Quarantine, just be ready. Just be ready. Because they're going to want that. They're going to want that. So I'm going to say this. I had to wait to go into the women's bathroom, and I'm not going to give you all of it. So unless you are my personal, unless you see me one-on-one and you ask me about it, I might share it with you. But when I went into the bathroom, okay, the lock didn't work. I don't know how long I'm going to be in that bathroom. And I don't know how much how much undressed I will be and how far away I am from the door. I'm not going to be able to save that person from seeing me in whatever part of the process I'm in. So there's this huge garbage can. Okay, I'm just going to talk about it. There's this, not everything, but at least part of it. There's this huge garbage can that did have water in case you need it, because there was no bum gun. And I'm used to a bum gun. And yes, for emergency purposes only, if you live in the Philippines, you know you need at least a bucket of water with your tuppo. You do. And it's not like I haven't used one, but for this instance, it couldn't be by the toilet because I needed it to be by the door to make sure the door wasn't going to open unexpectedly while I'm trying to give my urinalysis and poop on demand. Okay. So I get my urine sample. Easy. I'd been preparing that like all morning. I've been waiting to do that all morning, okay? The other part, if you see me one-on-one and you ask me what happened, I will tell you. I will tell you if you honestly ask me. But if I just start sweating profusely, Understand, I am reliving the trauma. I'm reliving the trauma, okay? Because in my mind, number one, I did not want to have to go through this process again. Number two, I did not want to have to come back at 2 o'clock because they wanted it by 2 o'clock. That's the last time when they were going to accept any sample for fecal analysis. And I'm not in control of the day. I mean, we had an appointment and I didn't know what more was going to happen throughout the day. Anyway. So, so I'm sweating profusely throughout this story. I'm gonna move on. Now you know. Now you know. You know at least part of it. Let me just say, that is why I'm telling you the actual medical process will take you 30 or more minutes. By the time I left the women's bathroom, I don't even know how long I was in there, but there was nobody waiting, and I'm grateful for that. I took care of business. I don't know how, why. I do know why and how, and it's part of the trauma. But I see the minutes on this video just ticking away as I'm reliving the moment. So I'm apologizing ahead of time. Let me move on. Okay, so I take my samples, and FYI, knowing that I have to give any type of urinalysis or something like that, I always bring a brown bag because, or I'm going to have to walk through that office in front of other people with my samples. So I always bring a little brown bag so that I can hand them my little brown bag and not feel embarrassed and shame, because I mean, everyone's doing it. So everyone, it's not like no one knows what happened, but I will tell you, leaving the bathroom with my brown bag, there was a moment of pride and a hint of shame. Oh, my eye is twitching. My eye is involuntarily twitching. Okay, I've got to move on. I brought my brown bag of stuff back to the lab. And I gave it to the medical person, whoever. And they gave it to the lab assistant. And then I did walk into, I'm sorry about my eye twitching. I don't know if you can see it, but I can feel it. Anyway, I went more into the room. We went to the right, and I had to sit down because they needed blood work. Now, I'm going to tell you, the blood work, you don't have to fast. So originally, I was going to fast for this blood work, and my husband made sure I ate a little bit. So I at least had a little bit of protein, some fruit, and I mainly drank water because I knew of the urinalysis. I'm sorry. Okay, so I knew of the urinalysis. Anyway, oh, that was my trigger word. I was wondering, why did I just randomly laugh? Oh, I forgot. Anyway, I got my blood work done. And I went back out into the waiting room after my blood work was done. And my husband was already in the waiting room. Oh my gosh. If we didn't have like balloons and streamers and all of it, fighting each other. It's like we don't have to come back. Please tell me we never have to do this again. Because it was so dramatic. I mean, at the time, we were just terrified. But now, it's funny because thinking back of everything, I think I will remember the details of that. I seriously hope I never have to do that again. Honestly. Please tell me I never have to do that again. And if I do have to do that again, okay, I'm creating a plan of action right now in real time. If I have to do that again, I'm going to go back to the Bureau of Quarantine and I'm just going to request the sample cups, so I just can go there, boom, and bring in something and find out what do you need to make sure it's legit, so I don't have to go through that again. Okay, so we left the Bureau of Quarantine, we did a bunch of other stuff, we came back in the afternoon because we needed to get a polio booster. Oh my gosh, my cheeks. So to get the polio booster, when you walk through the gate, the whole medical clearance building is to your right. You're gonna walk straight, veering a little bit to your left, and that's where you're going to go get your polio booster. I'm sorry, I had to go back to my notes so I can remember what I want to talk about. So when you walk into that building, to your right hand side, you'll see more of those teller type windows. You check in, and then I can't remember, I think we received a piece of paper, and then we turn left and we go towards this other little closed off area, a partitioned area, and then that's where we see the nurse. We give her, I think, a small piece of paper, and we just get our booster shot. And we that might have taken, I think, a total of 15 minutes, because then they processed that, whatever paperwork they needed to do, and then we received a little yellow booklet. Okay, and I think that was it. That was it. Yes, that was it. So everything about the Bureau of Quarantine, the morning and the afternoon, is now shared in this video. I think I did apologize ahead of time for the level of trauma that I felt and how much it would weave in and out throughout this story. But I want to say that I am so grateful for the JRC liaison officer that was there to help support us throughout the day, because our officer created the account, and the email, our results were emailed to her, and then those results were then, she emailed them to us so that we could find out our results, our medical clearance results. Okay. I'm sorry. So this is the video. That's it. Thank you so much for listening up to this point. My next video will be about the National Bureau of Investigations and that visit, and working through that, which was not as traumatic as what I just talked about today. Anyway, thank you so much for listening. I'm so glad you hung out for as long as you did. I'll catch you later. Have a good one.